From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher. Their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicky Fisher. Our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Skripchuk. And our Batman, the master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical, our mild-mannered soon-to-be billionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission, to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them, and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Captain's Log Supplemental.
Miss Vicky.
Yes, sir.
You know what?
What?
I've been thinking about this Sentinel system.
Yeah. Tell me about the Sentinel system.
So what I was thinking was we have the one car that's got the aim dash that's slowing us down. Because installing the aim dash is actually, it probably is easy, but it's quite hard the first time. And we haven't figured that out yet. The Sentinel system is really easy to set up. So what I was thinking was, why don't we put it in the Lemons car? And we'll worry about the aim data information separately. And we'll kind of break it down into a project. Because then we'd have the motorsports video system that we really, really want, and we'd be able to stream it. We just won't have the data inside, but we have the data outside, so we can combine them later. But I think that's a really good solution.
So what does this Sentinel system do?
Well, if it had the aim data, it would have all the data on the screen, and you could see all their telemetry and everything live. But we'd be able to not only record it for viewing after the race, but we could actually watch our car during the race.
Ooh, like on the monitor and everything?
On a monitor, if you were at home and I was at a track, or if you were at the track and I was at home, depends on who gets the short straw, but we'd be able to watch each other.
It's something I've always wanted to do.
And you know what? If you're driving, you know what you can do on the Sentinel system?
What's that?
You can communicate to me with your hands, and I can't do a thing about it.
Even better.
So, if you need to give a wave or a jersey wave, whatever you need, we could save it and see it on the screen. And then you can have up to 3 different cameras, and it'll have picture in picture. You'll have the basic main shot out the front window, and then 2 cameras where you put them wherever you want. One could be on the driver, or one could be on the rear view. It's kind of cool.
Then we can upload it onto YouTube.
We could bore millions of people on YouTube.
I love it.
All right. Very well. You know what the only downside I see about this?
What?
Your mom and my mom are going to be panic-stricken the entire weekend watching this thing to see if everything's going well.
This is true.
We probably shouldn't tell them.
I like the idea of having a Sentinel.
Mm-hmm. Well, luckily we have maybe 2. Depends on how things go. We're going to try. All right. That sounds like a plan. That's the project. We got to get that ready for the next race.
Sounds great.
All right. Very well. Thank you, ma'am.
Ben Dawson, I'm the only one here. Nobody else showed up. I need my Ben Dawson.
Man, we got the gruesome twosome here tonight.
I know. Everybody's got better stuff to do than talk to us.
The toxic twins are about to get busy and really figure out this driving thing.
Exactly.
Maybe some racing?
You know what? I know several things that make you happy. 1 is driving race cars really fast.
Yeah.
2 is talking racing. But
true.
Maybe going up the list since we started doing Dominating with Dawson has been listener feedback.
That's creeping right past number 2, right toward number 1. I love hearing from people who listen to this show.
Okay, so we had an earlier Dominating with Dawson where we talked about bench seats and bench seat stories. And and a listener, we'll call him Tyler, since his first name is Tyler. We're very creative on this podcast.
Hi, Tyler. How about you, Tyler?
He may or may not have been Tyler who was on the Dominating with Dawson earlier.
Tyler's last name is Stank. That's right, Tyler Stank. I love hearing from Tyler. Tyler's my man. Right. What's up?
So Tyler writes in and says, my first car, which I spoke about briefly, was a 1997 Oldsmobile Regency.
Ooh. Yeah, nice. I'm picturing it.
That's some serious non-sports car. Anyway, it had
very prestigious.
Yes, exactly. It probably had the half leather roof too.
That's called a Landau. That's called a Landau roof.
I am well aware. My
I thought you would know that. I was like, how did he not know that's a Landau roof?
No, the car that I took my test in was a 1979 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme with 3 on the floor. You know how that?
Really?
Yep. Yep. And just to back up that 3 on the floor to make sure you knew it was sporty, it had the V6. So yay. Yay. Anyway, back to Tyler. Enough about my first car that I took my license. He had a front bench seat, though the middle could be folded down into a center console, kind of like pickup trucks.
Yeah, gotcha, Tyler.
So Tyler writes in, being young and stupid, aren't we all? Sometimes
been there,
sometimes still there.
Tell me more.
Yes, I did a lot of things in that car that would likely be considered a bad idea, but I did learn to be fairly smooth in an effort to keep my butt in place. That is the bench seat conundrum, right?
Yeah.
I even took a few winter autocrosses at Road America. Oh, I even took it to a few winter autocrosses at Road America.
Yeah,
Road America. That sounds like fun, man.
Winter, gosh, that sounds like a winter wonderland. I mean, I don't know what it's like. I'm not sure everything that entails, but I want to do it.
I know. Tyler, we may need to have you on just to talk about winter autocrosses. That sounds spectacular. Although for Ben, winter autocrosses are the same as spring autocrosses, are the same as summer autocrosses. But, he could only find footage from January 2016, but he took the same event in February or March as well. The later event was much warmer and the snow had almost completely melted, so I was just driving on a wet kart track at that point. I'm sure I was doing some creative stuff to hold myself in place, but without video, I can't exactly say what it was. I do remember bracing my knee against the door in right turns, but there wasn't much help in the lefts.
Nope, just a big void, right?
Yep. You got 2 hands, and then all of a sudden, the hands are at 9 and 3, but the head's no longer at 12.
Yeah, because we're probably talking about a car with like no real center console unless you fold that little thing down. So you're just a big bench seat, pretty much, right?
You just go sliding across. And once again, this brings me back to the story of do not armor all your seats.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, Tyler, even as far back as 2016, and even further back as a couple decades at least before that, you can buy this thing for your shoulder harness called a CG lock that will lock your seatbelt in place when you're doing sporty driving, like at an autocross or something like that. So you don't have to worry about sliding around. It kind of holds your butt and your seatbelt in place from readjusting or letting any slack in. Am I right about that, Bill? I've never used one, but I think
I have 2 of them. I was giving them as gifts because we were having the same trouble at some autocrosses and some HPDs and some of our street cars, and they seem to work.
Yeah. So did I describe what they do pretty well as far as they kind of clip onto your lap belt, right? They clip onto your lap belt and hold you in place. So.
Yep. Yep, they clip.
That's something to think about if you don't have harnesses and don't have the kind of bucket seat to hold your butt in place exactly the way you want, like a race car. That's a kind of one workaround is to slap old CG lock. I don't know. I think if you search CG lock, you'll find it. I don't know if I'm sure there are imitators, or maybe that's not even a brand name. I'm not sure.
I'll put a link if I find it, and then I will also put a link to some of Tyler's bench seat autocross video. So.
Yeah, hell yeah! I'm dying to see that.
we'll get a few hits for Tyler on that one, and
that sounds like a good time. That sounds like my kind of good time. I want to see it.
Sounds like fun. All right, so if you have any other bench seat stories that may or may not involve autocross, family friendly, please, or I will convert them to family friendly. Send them in the garage heroes and training at gmail.com.
Ben's stories like had the bench seat, bleep, 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 bleep.
Yeah,
then I was changing diapers.
Yeah.
Then I knew how to change diapers.
Yeah, exactly. Or one of those fully redacted but released for public use. So Ben Dawson, we can't just talk about bench seats all the time.
Okay, I can move on from that. It was fun though.
It was fun. It was quite fun. So we had an earlier Dominate with Dawson where we started talking about underdriving and overdriving, and we were talking about how you might know you're overdriving. And you brought up that, from your perspective, wanting to have people perform at a higher level, you were also concerned about underdriving.
Yes.
Which while usually not a safety issue, unless you're talking about the way traffic deals with you and what you're doing, it does not help you as far as the clock goes.
Yeah, it's like a you're not going fast enough for Ben issue. You know what I'm saying?
It's like you're not fun for Ben to play with, and Ben wants to play with everybody.
Yeah, that's right. I want everybody to be out there making it hard to get around and making it more fun to race with, and that's just a function of going faster and being quicker in traffic. We did have a fun conversation about, how do I know if I'm overdriving? What are some symptoms of overdriving? And a lot of times we'll talk on the show about like, oh, we're really worried about one driver like overdriving the tires or wearing the brakes out. I don't really actually see that being much of a problem in most cases. We're running tires in these endurance series. Anything from WRL to Lemons are all running these same kind of 200 treadwear tires that in general there's a couple that will wear out. They're really just rebranded R comps with some grooves in them. Like I think the Bridgestone is sort of like that, but in general, you can get some of these tires that wear like iron and are plenty fast, and you're not really going to overheat them or mess them up unless you really had like a big singular slide type of incident.
I will tell you the Bridgestone RE71 RSs, phenomenal.
Oh yeah, they're great for grip, but you're probably going to want to bring a couple sets for a weekend. Good drivers. I've always heard that those are pretty much just one day tires, and they're pretty much Hoosier R comps with grooves in them. But anyway, I'm sort of deviating. But I'm saying for the most part, none of us are out there, vastly overheating our brakes by using them too well or driving too fast. If you're overheating the brakes, you're probably not taking your foot all the way off the brake pedal all the time, or if you're messing your tires, it was probably because you locked them up. So it was interesting to talk about the symptoms of overdriving and how do I know when I'm doing it and what can I do about it. But I pointed out, and this is just my feeling, but I think a more prevalent and common issue is people not driving up to the potential of the vehicle that they're in, or under driving the platform that they're in. So I thought it'd be interesting to talk about under driving and how to maybe stop doing that and be more fun for everybody like me on the track.
Indeed. So
yeah,
let's review some earlier Dominated with Dawson, and I'll give you some of my things that come to mind, and you can comment on them. First thing that comes to mind is Ben's going to say, are the tires, we may not be first, but one of the things is, are the tires talking?
Can I hear the tires talking to you? If I'm watching somebody's video and I don't hear a single noise from the tire, no matter how good their driving looks to me, which may be perfect car placement and putting everything at the right sequence and sort of the right timing, if I don't hear any complaints from the tires, I'm like, this person's not pushing hard enough. They might be doing fairly good execution, but there's still time on the table to be going even quicker. What do you think, Bill?
I think there's definitely a limit. You want them talking but not yelling, and definitely not crying.
Yeah, that's a good point. The old adage is always a chirping tire is a happy tire. So you want to hear some chirps, but you don't want to hear any sustained wailing, moaning, screaming, mewling, puking, any of those things. Bad for tires.
And you don't want to hear don't want to hear that. No, don't want to hear that. And then the one thing I have noticed is we started doing some tire tests. So we started deviating from our normal tires and trying other tires. Different tires sound different, and different tracks sound different. So don't expect like, I want a C sharp B flat. It's different. You kind of gotta learn.
You just want to know that you're working the tire, and if the tire's never making any noise or slipping at all, you may be doing everything fairly well, but you're doing sort of an imitation of somebody quick. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, indeed. And then speaking of imitation, the next thing that I would think Ben thinks about is...
Oh, but that was going to be the first thing. The thing you just said about the tires, that was going to be the first thing I was going to say. So good job. I don't even need to keep coming to these. I can stop coming.
I pay attention to these, Ben. I not only get to listen to you talk, I get to listen to you as I edit, and then I listen to them as I release them. It's
so much, Dawson. I'm sorry. I apologize.
So how about this? This may be second, but it's definitely on the list. You want to see some minor corrections of the steering wheel. You don't just want to see steady hands with no movement.
Right.
but you don't want to see that fake, oh, I watched it on TV and I watched the NASCAR guide, and I'm going down the straightaway and I'm adjusting my wheel because I saw that.
I don't want to see anybody theatrically working the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Which generally in road course racing will lead you to quickly to grief. So I don't really see that happen too much. But yeah, you're right. Like I want to see the car being, or the vehicle being driven hard enough that it forces the driver to make some small corrections. And nobody's perfect. But I think if I see somebody who just looks completely settled all the time, and is never correcting course even a little bit, I think that they're probably not pushing hard enough. I think that and I have to color this by saying my own driving style is perpetually asking for more than I know that I can get from the car. I'm always going to ask for more than I know I can have, but then I'm going to settle it on the way through the corner with some corrections and see what I can actually get. I'm going to throw it a pretty good guess. Yeah, I'm going to throw a pretty good guess at it, but I'm always going to ask for a little bit more than I know the car's going to let me have. And then I'm just going to settle it on, by the time I'm hopefully at the apex, or definitely by the time I'm on the way out, I will have reconciled that difference and hopefully been pretty quick through the whole process. So not everybody does that, but when I'm describing how I think you should drive, a lot of times I'm talking about this a little bit over the limit approach, but that's just my own style. Like I often talk about my teammate Hans, who's a Spec E46 racer, and he's very smooth and he's as fast as me, sometimes faster, but he is not as he's much more precise and going in there and getting exactly what he wants and what he needs out of the car instead of my sloppier approach.
Okay. Let me try this again. Let me see how I'm doing. All right. So third thing, maybe, but on the list, are you using all of the track? And I don't mean some of the track, and I don't mean most of the track, and I don't mean I'm close to the apex. I mean I am on the apex, and I don't mean I track out. I mean I track way out until I get a little clenchy.
For me, I mean, part of fully driving, not over driving, not under driving, but fully utilizing the geometry presented to you and the grip presented to you by the tires and the geometry of the track. I unless it's prohibitive, unless there's some reason not to be out of the curb. There's a couple of curbs at C&P, for instance, they're so rough it disrupts the car to really get all the way out there. You might want to dip a couple wheels on there, but then again, places like VIR where they add these extra lanes coming out of turn 3 and coming out of Oak Tree, they gave everybody an extra car width out there. It's rough. It's kind of like jumping the weight to get out there. But if I'm not driving the car so that it pushes me all the way out to the exit, all the way out to the exit curbing, if I don't use everything on the inside, unless it just doesn't geometrically make sense. There are a few places at some tracks where there will be a painted curb and an apex there, but due to the fact that the shape of the exit before just may not be a thing, it may not make sense to go all the way down to the apex. So sometimes at a track there are a couple things you might not actually use, but for the most part, I'm going to use almost every apex curb and almost every exit curb as much as I can safely, just to open up the angles as much as I can, so that I can get back on the gas. So anything I can straighten out or make a shallower bend, I will, and that involves using the entry as fully as I can and using every bit of the exit on the way out.
But by use the track, you don't mean steer out to it or steer into it. You mean momentum takes me or precludes me from using.
Yeah, I mean, in my view, I'm going to come in so hard that I'm kind of screeching the tires a little bit or squeaking making noise of the tires, trying to work my way down to the apex, and hopefully I've timed it and gotten my steering angle and my brake timing right so that it's not a huge effort to get to the apex. But I mean, right before or at the apex, I want to be back on throttle, and I want that throttle and my momentum that I carried at the apex to just throw the car out where it's got to be. The car should just go, should have no choice but to end up fully at the exit if you've done the right thing as far as carrying speed to the corner. Mm-hmm. You should never have to drive. Okay, let me just drive it on out to this curb. It should throw you out there if you've done it right. And if you're utilizing your grip and fully driving the car, not over driving, not under driving. You hit that apex right at the right angle, the right speed with your steering angle also correct, car angle. The car should have no choice but to end up out there. Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely. Now we start getting to the little bit, more difficult to see or more difficult to perceive on a video, and maybe you need to be in the car, I think. I can't think of anything else except maybe the way you handle traffic, that you could see on video.
Yeah, one of the things that's harder to perceive on video and easier for me to do in person is helping people with their throttle timing. Brake timing will eventually take care of itself as people, if I'm in the car with somebody who's pretty confident, I'm usually less concerned with their brake timing, and I'm more concerned with throttle timing and how much throttle they can get away with giving. A lot of times, if I'm in the car with somebody, the way I can help them find the most speed is saying, yes, you can hit it now. Don't wait, hit it now. Or like usually I have to tune up somebody's turn in timing. So I get their turn in timing the way I want it. And then I usually will be like, okay, now that we've got the turn in done earlier than usually it's earlier than they're used to. Now that we've got the car turned and rotated earlier, get on the gas. That's usually my big thing is helping people find speed is helping them get the car turned where it needs to be turned and then hammering the gas and then showing them that yes, you can hit the gas this early, yes, you can give it this much power, or if it's a momentum car, we're like all the way on it. But helping people find where they can get back to the gas and be fully committed to full throttle is one of the ways I've most often been able to help people find big chunks of time.
So what?
That's hard to tell. That's hard to tell from watching videos sometimes, especially in the car when it's not that loud. So a lot of times that me in person sitting there with you, I can help you a lot more with timing sort of things, or any coach could, just kind of help you understand what you can get away with, which is a big part of fully driving. And I'm not sure how I ever picked up on it. I guess just because I used to slide around, like, oh, that's too much sliding. But especially if you're somebody who doesn't take that overdrawn approach that I always do. I'm always going to empty my checking account as far as my grip checking account. Every time I go into a corner, I'm going to empty the account plus more. If you don't take that approach, I would imagine it's hard to tell when you're fully utilizing the car and the track. And one of those things that can play into it so much is throttle timing and how much can I get away with? Will the car and I pull this off? And especially for newer drivers, it's hard to have the confidence in the tire. I mean, when I started racing overall in karts on the dirt oval, racing on slicks, I would see people bomb down in the corner and not even let off. I'm like, how? There's no way this tire is going to let me do that. And then, a couple of weekends of seeing everybody else do it, and I wasn't trusting that tire. I'm like, I just got to trust the tire and go in there. And it's similar. I mean, going up through the S's the first time at VI, you're like, there's no way I can do this flat out. The tire is not going to let me stay on the track. And so building confidence in the connection that you have between your vehicle and the track is also a big part of fully utilizing your car and the grip that you have and fully driving.
And you don't necessarily have to do that at the high consequence corners to learn how to do that.
It's true. That's true. And I should say, I don't know if I've said this often on the show, but I went karting for a couple of years and did pretty well and decided I wanted to get into cars and eventually road course stuff. So I made myself do a year of autocross knowing that I would hate it. I did hate it. I was terrible at it, but it helped me get a better feel for low consequence out of control in the car. So I learned how to sling a Miata around. Even though I wasn't enjoying it that much, I had a better feeling for what out of control in the Miata felt like at 30, 40 miles an hour. And it was easier to find that out than, finding out what happens when you're, start losing it at 100 miles an hour,
So like turn 12 at Road Atlanta and turn 1 at Road Atlanta are not where you're going to start to learn these things.
It's not where you should, but that's cars you see balled up in the wall. That's where they chose to learn it.
Exactly. The track that I always think of if you want to start to learn how to push things, but at least of the ones that I've been to, Gingerman is a great place. There's only one spot you can get in any trouble whatsoever. The rest of it, you're just welcome to the field of grass and no consequence.
Nice.
So, did I miss anything else on this introduction to not underdriving?
Well, I'll say this. One of my biggest thrills I've gotten to do in my career is going to get to compete at tracks where I've never driven. So where ideally I get to start the whole race at some track I've never been to, but at least the first time I drive on the track in competition is the first time I've ever been on there. But one of the ways to make that fun for me and make it so that I still feel like I have a chance to dominate, which I also have done before, is I like to watch a bunch of video, and I like to get whatever seat time I can with a sim. So I think one of the ways to avoid underdriving is to do as much prep as you can. So we talked about some stuff at the track, on the track. That's all great. But before you even get there, if you want to be fully driving and be fully utilizing your grip, the money you spent to be there, your cachet with your fellow group mates on track, do some prep. Watch a bunch of video from somebody competent in a similar platform to what you're taking to the track. If you're driving a Miata, go watch a bunch of spec Miata guys race around there and just kind of see all the tricks that they're doing to get around there fast. I would say, do as whatever sim you can get to, do as close a configuration as to where you're going on a sim. I got to race at Las Vegas Motor Speedway in a night race with Chump one time. This is like 10 years ago. And the exact configuration they weren't using of the oval and the roval wasn't there on iRacing, but I could kind of piece a couple of halves together to use most of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that. And before the car broke, I had a 4-lap lead over the whole field. So just to be clear, you can do a lot of prep work and show up swinging that big stick around right out the gate. So, that's another way to fully utilize your time, is to do a lot of prep, do a bunch of seat time on a sim if you can. If nothing else, find somebody credible driving a car similar to yours, so you can just watch how to get around.
Or we can have Bill do story time.
Yeah.
So we were having trouble getting our cars prepped. Our first trip to Watkins Glen.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, if it could go wrong, it did go wrong, and we were prepping 5 cars to go up there, and it was ugly.
Jesus.
Yeah,
that's your problem.
Yeah, that was part of many problems. So anyway, Bill gets to Watkins Glen, and he is there for the first time, and he is going down Watkins Glen. And I don't know if you've been there yet, but
I have.
Some of the track looks like some of the track. So
where is this going?
There's nothing like trying to dominate, and you don't know if you're coming up to a left-hand turn or a right-hand turn, and that is not the way to dominate, just for those playing home game. So that was where Bill got really anal about, it took me 3 sessions of the 4 sessions I got for the first day to learn if it was a left-hand turn or a right-hand turn.
Wow.
And that was not a very well spent day.
No, you're right.
No. So, well, Mr. Dawson, I believe we will have some communication from the other parties that usually contribute to the Dominator Dawson about underdriving. But
I'd like to hear what listeners think too. I mean, we kind of just scratched the surface on such a huge topic of amateur racers not driving their cars as quickly as they could. So we got way more to talk about, I'm sure, and I'd love to hear what any listeners have to say about the topic.
That's right. Don't let Tyler be the only one who writes in.
Well, I mean, I do love what he has to say, but I like to hear from everybody.
We do. And, if you do write in, we can always return the favor by sending out some stickers, because, I ordered way too many.
Stickers. I mean, Bill will come to your house and do a back rub for you or your pets.
It's
a whole thing.
That's a lottery. You have to win the drawing.
Sorry, it can't be everywhere. He's not Santa Claus. I don't know why people think that. Why people like always writing in saying like Bill's just like Santa. He's not. Okay, you can't be at every house in one night, guys.
Nope. If I had to give massages to everyone, my thumbs would look like my big toe, and that's not a good look for race gloves. So
hammer time.
Exactly.
I don't know if you have a hammer toe. I'm not even sure what a hammer toe is. I just had to say that.
I don't know either. I was just going to say something about not touching this, but that's a different story.
That's right.
There we go. All right, sir. Thank you, Ben.
All right. Thanks for having me.